Today on the Hall Podcast After Hours, I get the honor of speaking to an amazing BC legend.
Hi, this is Terry David Mulligan. This Thursday on Good Rockin Tonight, an interview with Grammy Award winner Tina Turner.
Today, we have Terry David Mulligan. Welcome to the Hall.
Thank you. I love the Hall. Love it.
Thank you. Thank you. So you've had a pretty eclectic career, starting off in the RCMP and then through broadcasting. Let's start from the beginning. How did you get into being Terry David Mulligan?
I can shorten that down to a quick 12 minutes. I first of all, it's most important that you know that I grew up in Skunk Hollow.
No idea where that is.
That's North Vancouver, sir. Just off.
Oh, okay. Okay.
And it was called Skunk Hollow because that's what it was. And wartime houses were built there. There's a shot of Mom, my mother Joyce, with my sister and I standing in front of her. It was specifically made for my father, who was off at war. So you can tell that this is what he would carry with him. But way in the background, you can see a streetcar going up Fell, which were only, as soon as the war was over, that streetcar was gone. But a streetcar going up Fell Avenue in North Vancouver was a big deal. So it's called Skunk Hollow. And he was the game warden. And you paid a price for that because when I went to school, all the kids that he had busted for fishing out of season in the rivers or poaching salmon would come looking for me. And they'd want their equipment back and the gun. Anyway, he took a job in Kamloops, which for a game warden is like Yankee Stadium. It's amazing. So we ended up in North Kamloops. It was a hard transition, but one of the benefits that allowed me to get out of Kamloops and out of Vancouver was I had a radio that I had beside my bed, and I had this is a story. A metallic alarm clock. I took the cover off, put the alarm clock on the ground wire. I don't know why I didn't fry myself. And that allowed me to hear Wolfman Jack in Del Rio, Texas, on the Mexican border. It was 100,000 watts or 500. Yeah. It was a ridiculous signal. And I heard Wolfman Jack. There was nobody on radio like Wolfman Jack. He was a howling maniac and played rhythm and blues music and hard rock and roll. None of the soft rock and roll, the Jerry Lee Lewis, the Little Richard, the Chuck Berry, all that hard stuff. And so I was drawn, I was just hiding under the covers, loving it. At the same time, at school, I was doing the PA announcements. I don't know what. And I was also doing the dance club at noon, which was basically a food fight with music. I'd be on the stage playing 78s while the kids danced, sock up. So I didn't recognize what I was doing, but later on, looking back at that part of my life, that's what I obviously was more interested in than almost anything, was music and playing music at the school. So anyway, I'm a Mountie, and I'm driving around Alberta. I'm out in Red Deer, and I'm 4 years in, and the British invasion comes along. The Beatles, the Stones, the Kinks, the Who, the Animals, it was on and on and on. Every week had a new band, hot. And the Beatles, of course, owned the charts. And I was drawn to the radio station, Hal Weaver, great guy, huge voice, who would end up in Toronto. When he did his remotes at the A&W, I could actually talk to him. I could step inside the booth. And he said, obviously you want to do this. I said, I'd like to try. So he said, okay, come to the station. We're going to do an audition tape. And he set it up. And I yelled into an audition microphone, and some strange, bizarre reason they hired me. So then I was a Mountie and a disc jockey for about 6-8 months. The Mounties were not happy because they could hear me on the air.
Yeah.
And I was just screaming because nobody was listening. It was 10 to midnight. Anyway, that part worked out well. Hal held my hand. They got an FM license, and I broadcast 8 hours of jazz and blues and rock and roll on the FM side. Nobody else could do it, and I was the only one that had the knowledge. I had a music major, and it turned out really well. I went from there to Calgary. I went from Calgary to Regina. All I wanted to do was get back to Vancouver, and then I kept doing stunts, hanging from cars and cables and stuff. Fred Robinson noticed it, CFOX, and he said, "You want to come back?" I said, "Yes." So I came back.
So did you mentor under Red Robinson then?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
And how long was that mentorship for?
Well, I mean, he would tap you on the shoulder and say, "Shut up, you stop, you're talking too much, you're doing this, you're yelling, try not to yell." And it worked. I kind of knew what I was doing. Hal Weaver had taught me. I had heard one of the great voices in all of Canadian radio, Hal Weaver, huge voice, great voice, the very kind of voice you'd die for. And I just listened to those guys and copied them until I found my own voice. But one of the things I noticed was that I didn't want to do that was this is. I didn't want to, hey, LG73, they give you 15 seconds to do whatever. I wanted to talk for 20 and 25 seconds and say something to the audience. And they said, no, you can't do that. No. You get 15 seconds. That's it. You got to do time and temperature and who you are. That's 7 seconds. So I realized that I had to move on. I couldn't exist in that thing. And I moved over to CKLG, and I had a little more room to move in there. And then the manager came out of his office one day and said, "There's something going on in San Francisco." This is 68, 69. He said, "There's something going on in San Francisco. I want you to go down there. I want you to spend a week at KSAN, I think it was. I might have my call letters wrong. Big Daddy Tom Donahue was the guy, the disc jockey. He's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Again, a huge voice. And he was playing album tracks on FM radio, the first to do it. And I brought that concept back and I said, order these 5,000 albums. Here's a list. Order them, get them in here. And then we did classes telling the disc jockeys how to sell this. It wasn't a 3-minute record. It was a 7-minute record, or you could play the whole side if you wanted to. And it was freeform. It was completely against what I had grown up with. And that became CKLG-FM, huge success, which eventually became CFOX.
Okay, that was going to be my next question. It was kind of an underground radio station when it started, was it not?
Yeah, it was underground and was seen as some sort of dark prince because they had gone from playing Living Strings and Matavani and Guy Lombardo records to the Grateful Dead and Taj Mahal and Ry Cooder and all those great and the blues guys, Buddy Guy and Buddy B.B. King, all that stuff.
That's awesome.
And by the way, it was phenomenal. Our shifts, I think, were 3 hours long, and we would all of us, if we wanted a break or a coffee or a smoke, would put on one side of an album and walk away and hope the record didn't skip.
So you've been doing Mulligan Stew now, your own podcast for a radio show for 29 years, 30 years?
Almost 30 years. Yeah.
Almost 30 years.
Yeah, almost 30 years. And I went to CKUA in Alberta, Edmonton, because Moses Neimer said, "I want you to go and do a story on these guys. They supported us in our bid for a license, and I like the station." And so when I got there, I realized that this was the station I'd been listening to when I was a Mountie. Very different. Whoever was in the chair was a specialist at what they were playing, whether it was country or blues or jazz or middle of the road, or not middle of the road, or folk music or roots music. They were a specialist at that, and they had their 2 hours, and that's what they did, and then handed it off to someone else. So it was a checkerboard mix of all of these genres all in one flow. And we've been doing it a long time. And I went to do the story, and as I was walking out, I said, if we can figure out a way for me to record and send you a weekly show, are you interested? And they said, well, what would you play? I said, I'm going to play rock and roll. Well, we don't play rock and roll. I said, that's exactly why we play rock and roll. You're playing all of the roots of rock and roll, but not rock and roll. And so I said, I'll send you a show. Tell me what you think. And they listened to the show and they loved it. And that was almost 30 years ago.
Amazing. Why do you think it's stayed relevant for so long?
Well, first of all, it's donor supported. So there's something about a donor that invests money in their radio station, which you're not asked to do that. CBC is overfunded. All the radio stations that you and I are surrounded by are selling ads, as many as they can get in there, right? Donor supported means it's the donor that is the engine that drives it.
Mm-hmm.
And they are all music fans, huge music fans. And we go to them twice a year to raise funds to stay on the air. It used to be 500,000 and 600, then 700. Now it's $1 million every 6 months. And that's a hard case. I mean, if they stop sending, you're out of the business. You have no radio station. But they keep showing up. And we read their names. We read the messages that come in with the donation. And myself and Alison Brock, who used to be my record rep in Vancouver, she does a Wide Cut Country show Saturday morning. I do Mulligan Stew Saturday afternoon into dinner hour. And we put our mix together. It's called Wide Cut Stew. It's fantastic. And we raised, she and I raised over 10 hours, just at the end of October, over 10 hours, we raised $215,000.
Wow.
A quarter of what they raised. And we know what we're doing. We're really good.
Well, you can't be on the air for 30 years and, well, no, longer than that. How long have you actually been on the air then?
First time I was on the air was 1964.
Yeah, so yeah, of course you know what you're doing then.
And by the way, when I told my dad I was leaving the RCMP to do what? I'm going to be a disc jockey, Dad. And he hung up and didn't talk to me for 2 years.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Not happy.
So you've interviewed many people.
Yeah.
Is there any interview that kind of just sticks in the back of your mind as like, wow, I got to interview blank?
Janis Joplin.
Wow.
Frank Zappa, many times. Janis, many times. Robbie Robertson, the band. Jimi Hendrix, the band. All of them, 3 of them. Little Feat.
So anybody that's anybody.
You get them as you can get them, because I did a lot of that during my time at MuchMusic as well, hosting Much West, and it's a bit of a blur until I see photos, and then it all comes back. I had forgotten that I had interviewed Joni Mitchell for her book, and somebody said, I saw it on YouTube. Oh, what? Me? So I went looking for it and recaptured my audio.
Yeah.
And I'm surrounded by photos, but if I know where I put them, I'll show you.
So when I hear the name Terry David Mulligan, I think of Good Rockin Tonight.
Sure.
So tell me about Good Rockin Tonight. How did that start? You did that for a few years.
Where were you living then?
Where was I living?
Yeah.
I was in Langley. Langley. I had some older sisters and I had an older brother that were very into music. One of them being a DJ herself now. So
we told sorry, I cut you off there. Finish that story about your sister.
Nope. Just that she's a DJ. So like music is in the family. My dad was in a band that you probably actually heard of back in the day called 5 Man Cargo.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my dad was the drummer before they actually made it big. And then he had to go back to Ireland. And so unfortunately wasn't able to be with them in their good days. But
how's his hearing?
It's not good.
No,
not good at all. But so tell me about Good Rockin Tonight.
Good Rockin Tonight. I think I auditioned for that and got the gig. And it was my friend Ken Gibson. He had come from England and knew about Top of the Pops and how the British sold their rock and roll. And that's what we did. It was an afterthought at CBC. Say, okay, fine, use the rehearsal space. You want to set? No, you can. We'll give you some lighting and an audio guy, and that's about it. It really was just on a wing and a prayer, and it turned out to be quite simply their most popular show. And I could tell because of just the mail that was coming in. It was ridiculous, amazing amount of mail when we had mail. And at some point, about 2 years in, I asked for a raise because I knew where the show was successful. And they said, no. I went, okay. That's when I took a look around and went, I'm going to go talk to MuchMusic. I need some, I've got kids going to school. I got a mortgage to pay. I need to put some money in the bank, and I can't count on CBC. So I headed for MuchMusic, and I pitched myself to Moses Neimer. The pitch was, you call yourself the nation's music station, but you're nowhere to be found in Vancouver. And if you haven't noticed, Vancouver's and BC is winning all the Junos these days. This is when Adams was just ruled the roost. Mm-hmm. And I said, we're a story now that you guys aren't covering. And you can't just fly a crew out, do something every 2 months or 3 months. That's not the nation's music station. You have to be here, and I'm your guy to be here. And they went, okay, all right.
So where did you record that then?
I recorded it on the street. We didn't have a studio per se.
Okay.
We had an office where the camera came from. The production office was on Beatty Street.
So Beatty, like right beside the SkyTrain?
Yeah, looking down on the SkyTrain. Yeah.
855, I want to say.
Yeah, something like that.
So I worked out of TSN was out of there for a bit, and I was I worked with TSN out of that studio. So
it was before Beatty became really cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's where we were, and we did some stuff in there when it was raining or whatever. But for the most part, we were on the streets, and we'd look at the weather forecast and see where the sunny days were.
Yeah.
And went and shot in the sunny days just to drive them crazy in Toronto. And I wore shorts most of the winter as long as I could. I only had to have them on for about 10 minutes and then jump in the car and put my pants back on. I just wanted to drive them crazy because we were the rain capital of Canada. And so and we had great time. We had great time. And on the street, you get what you get. You get what you get. People spitting on you, people yelling at you, names coming out of open windows, whatever. But it worked for me.
That's amazing. So so back to Mulligan Stew. I was listening to an episode the other day. You had Spinal Tap. You're interviewing the guys from Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
How did you keep? I could only hear it. So how did you keep a straight face during that interview? I was cracking up laughing during that.
I will jump back in time in my life when I ended up doing a commercial as an actor for Molson Golden Ale. And I was in Vancouver. I didn't know the power of Molson Golden Ale. They ran their ads every 7 minutes for 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It was continual. So they were very popular. And they put a series of people together around me and another guy named Steve. And we would have a dialogue, and they would be additional voices and faces come in. It'd be a pool party. It would be a flight on some aircraft or whatever. And it was always to sell the punchline, Molson Golden. Do you know what you're missing? But they surrounded us because Second City had just started a new cast there. John Candy, Dan Aykroyd, Gilda Radner, no Martin Short for some strange reason. And all of those original Second City stars that went on to Saturday Night Live. Mm-hmm. And so those are the guys that we were surrounded by. And when we weren't shooting in the studio, they would ad lib. I could see the rhythm that they were doing, and then they'd take us back to Second City after we finished shooting, and they'd make fun of the commercial on the stage, and they'd ad lib the whole thing, right? Yeah. And so I knew how ad libbing worked. I knew how free form, just going with the flow. And they gave me a choice. Do you want to talk to them as themselves or as their characters? I said, oh, characters. Give me their characters. So they did the characters, and I knew exactly what I wanted. I didn't have to think twice about it. It was just the same sort of thing I had done with Second City. Just set them up.
Yeah.
Set them up. Set them up.
That was
Call
good.
bullshit on some stuff that you don't agree with, and go with it. And that's what we did.
Awesome. Awesome.
I'm glad you saw that.
Yeah. Yeah. So Mulligan Stew again, you do everything from talking to artists to wine tasting as well. Is that part of Mulligan?
No, I have a wine show. I have when Jason Priestley and I finished shooting our television series called Hollywood and Vines, I came back to North Vancouver or West Van actually, and Meg said, why don't we have our own wine region. Why don't we go to the Okanagan? I went, oh, sure. Well, let's go look. So I went up there to do a broadcast thing. And while I was giving the speech, she was up in the hotel room and wrote me and said, I found our house. And we went up and saw this house that was gorgeous on the edge of a vineyard. It had been an old ranch house that had been moved to that corner of the lot. Looked out over the valley, over the Naramata Bench. And it was phenomenal, surrounded with deer, and wolves, and just everything. And we moved. And we moved from North Van to Naramata Bench and spent those 4.5, 5 years up there. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. And so that's where I had a studio, and I realized that nobody was doing a wine show on radio weekly in the Okanagan, which is stupid. So I went and did it. I started that, and that was 17, 18 years ago.
And that's Tasting Room? Is that the name of the
radio? Yeah.
Okay.
And so tomorrow, my first interview is at 8 a.m. with Mary McDermott from Township 7. And I moved the bottles out of here. So I've been forced to drink her sparkling and bubble champagne for 2 nights now.
So we are doing this interview on Zoom. I just got the 10-minute warning here saying that our meeting's going to end in about 10 minutes.
I have one before we go. I have one plumbing question. I'm saving it for you. Do you want it?
Oh no. I have another question for you. So
yeah, go.
Okay, so it's Friday night. You're sitting at home, kind of a rainy night. You put on a record, I'm assuming, or a CD, and then what do you have in your hand as a glass of wine, whiskey?
Well, sometimes it's sometimes it's rosé.
Okay.
But a good rosé. There's bad rosés, trust me, but there's some really, really good rosé, and one of them comes from 7 minutes behind me, Unsworth Vineyards in the Cowichan Valley. Their rosé literally helped to build that winery because it paid all the bills. When you get it right, people notice.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so we're surrounded by wineries here in the Cowichan. I would have a rosé with Meg, and then if I went red, because I'm a red guy, I'd maybe open a Barche Brothers Cab Franc.
Okay.
I like to go in that direction. I love blends, but I'm a Cab Franc Gamay guy. If I can find a Gamay, a rosé made from Gamay, that's the end of my journey. That's all I need. A great grape done in a beautiful manner. So, and every once in a while, I'll have a gin and tonic, especially during the summer, mainly for the ice, and the ice waters it down. I do the whiskey festival every January in the Whiskey Awards in Victoria, and I don't drink while I'm doing the interviews.
Yeah.
I can't because at the end of it you're done.
Yeah.
You're done. So I either spit out or just smell and inhale. That's all.
What would you be listening to while you're drinking that rosé?
I would be listening to Miles Davis.
Nice.
I'd be listening to Monk. Maybe who's that guy that does? There's a jazz player, band leader, who's from Jamaica, but he's in Brooklyn, and he makes great jazz, but with a slight reggae beat that surprises me. Mark, it'll come to me. It'll come to me. Anyway,
Okay.
And
Awesome.
but also, I mean, I can listen to Van Morrison's Astral Weeks. I can listen to Springsteen live, but mostly I'm looking for a groove. I'm looking for something. Hold on a second, just a sec, 2 seconds.
Okay.
I'm looking for Steely Dan. I'm looking for. I like Dan Mangan. I like. God, there's so many.
Yeah.
The Brothers Landreth. Love the Brothers
Okay.
Landreth. Winnipeg.
Awesome.
Bonnie Raitt.
So you had a question for me, you said.
Yeah, it's about plumbing. No, it's about old school. We bought this house, which is an acre looking out over the water, and somebody did an incredible job building gardens front, back, and center. An amazing place, and but they cobbled together the irrigation. You can tell it was kind of some old school guy put it all together. I need to find an old school guy because every plumbing guy that comes by goes, I don't know what the hell is it. I don't know.
So we have an instructor here. His name is Johnny. Johnny is amazing at that stuff. I'll have to talk to Johnny and get him to talk to you, and he would love to help you out with that, I think.
Does Johnny ever leave town?
Oh yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
so,
because this would be a chore. We would invite him over. We'd put him up for the night if he cared to stay with us, because this used to be a B&B. And we would feed him. He would have more than his share of wine. And we'd pay his bill, and maybe we would get the irrigation working.
Yeah, and he's a good talker too. He's got some stories that that you would really enjoy. The two of you would have a good time together. Okay, we're going to end up losing this stream here. Right. So I want to thank you so much, Terry, for coming on. I'd love to do this again sometime. So maybe we'll keep in touch.
Let's do a part 2. Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to do that. And next time, hopefully, we get the tech kind of working a little better than we did today. So thank you very much, Terry. To everybody that's watching, make sure you follow Terry on Mulligan Stew and
mulliganstew.ca. The podcast is going to be at Mulligan Stew Podcast on Spotify, etc., and the Terry David Mulligan YouTube channel.
Awesome. Thank you, Terry. Like and subscribe, all those kind of things, and we will see you next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, buddy. Thank you.